good to see your beautiful filmmaking faces once again. In this episode, we're going to try our best to fix some seriously underexposed wedding footage and apply some color correction tips. I hope you guys are buckled in for a good ride, so here we go. One thing I want to note is that this footage was shot 6 years ago, and it was shot on the Sony EA50 and the Sony AX2000. And both cameras have very small sensors, so they're not good in low light. So we're going to see that how it's drastically underexposed and it does not show up well at all. So here we go. So let's just look at it right now. I'm going to go ahead and play the clip and see what we got. Looks like we have a lot of confusion here, a lot of heads, a lot of people in the background, a lot of people on the way. We got the guy here holding the curtain. We got the lady here fixing the dress. We got another camera here. We got the photographer here. So basically it's a shot, obviously supposed to be just the bride and her dad. Right here is where I want to cut this. So I'm going to hit C. So I get the cut tool. Then I'm going to right click and I'm going to ripple delete. So now this is where I'm going to start. So I'm looking at this. So the first thing I'm looking at, let's go ahead and crop some of it out, right? Let's get a good image here so we can put them in the middle of this frame. And let's start from here. I'm gonna go ahead and keyframe this in case I'm gonna have to make some adjustments. Let's go from here. And immediately, and I'm going to make some adjustments right here. So here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring them up as much as I can. Bring this over as much as I can. And I think I'm going to scale this up more. Let's say 56 sounds good. So by scaling them up gives me more room to raise them. So let's try this. Let's go back and try this and see how this looks. Okay, so it is a little cleaner. Got a lot of less confusion in the background there. And so this is probably where I'll end up cutting this clip here. So basically what I want to do is I want to get this clip presentable. So now we're looking at the color, we're looking at a lot of grain. Obviously it's underexposed. So the first thing I want to do is I want to look at my scopes. I want to look at what is actually going on here. So as I can see, I'm actually looking at my scopes. I see all this stuff down here on the zero line, the black line. So what that tells me, first of all, the first thing I want to do is I want to get some of this stuff off my zero line. I need to create some room for myself. So I'm going to go into my color wheels and match tab here and go over to the shadows. Now, what this does with the shadows is more as an absolute. It's different from the shadows in the basic correction. The shadows in the basic correction, mainly what that does is it spreads out between the zero and the midpoint. It will spread out the lows in that particular instant. The highlights here will do the same. It'll go from the mid to the high and it'll spread out the highs in that particular instance. I'm actually looking for the more absolute, so that's why I'm here in this particular shadow. So obviously they don't operate the same. And so that gave me some room here to work with. So now what I'm looking at doing is, okay, I need to bring my highs up a little bit. So I'm going to bring my highlights up. As you can see, it's going to start bringing my highlights up from mid to high. So I'm bringing those up, but I'm going to run out of room here. And then I'm also going to look at bringing my midtones up. Now my midtones is going to be from anywhere around the mid section here to the mid section here. So as you can see, when I move the slider, how it adjusts my midtones. So I just want to bring them get a little more clarity on their face. I know it's introducing more noise, and we'll deal with that as well. So now that it looks decently exposed, let's try to bring up a little more exposure. I don't want to bring it too high, but I want to at least get it decent. Okay, so now I'm somewhat happy with that. So now what I want to do is, I don't have a lot of color in this shot, so I'm not worried about saturation a lot. But I do have some pink here in her bouquet. So I'm looking at trying to bring just a little bit, not much. So now what we need to do is we need to white balance. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try my best to try to find a nice white. Now we have a white here, but as you can see, he's in a different area of our bride and her father. So if I white balance here, it's going to give us a more of a, as you can see, a warmer tone. And I'm not really looking for that warmer tone. So I'm going to Control Z. So let me try something in her bouquet here. I went a little bluish, but it's a little too blue for me. So let me bring that blue back a bit. Bring this back a bit. That looks pretty decent, I guess. I'm not too mad about that. Okay, so now that we have that going, and it looks like we have keyframed our position pretty decently. Just kind of play it back and try to look and see if it's, I guess for me, this tripod is kind of bothering me a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keyframe that. Here, I'm going to move it. Since I've already started the keyframes, every adjustment now is going to automatically introduce another keyframe. So I don't have to keep hitting the keyframe button. So I'm just kind of looking at this. Now this camera is the Sony EA50. That's actually being shot from the front of the room. So I'm trying my best to see how presentable I can get this. Maybe add just a little bit more exposure. Okay. All right, so we can see we have a lot of noise here, a lot of noise. So I'm gonna try my best to clean some of that up. I'm gonna use Neat Video. So I dial that up and bring it. I just drop it on my clip here, and as you can see, it shows up here. So I just hit the prepare button, then I hit the build button. And wait for it to populate here. And then what I have to do now is I have to give it a sample of the noise. And so I'm looking at this jacket and I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, you know? So I got 6.3 there. I know it's a lot more than that needs to be dealt with, but let's see what happens. All right, so I'm going to push build profile. It's going to say the user use the small area. And what it's actually talking about is here is it actually wants me to have a bigger area. It'll go green when it has a big enough area to deal with. And actually where I'm trying to get my sample, there's not a big enough area. So I'm just going to use the area that I did get. There we go. Okay, so we got a decent one then, 6.4. So we're going to tell it to go ahead and build. Now I can use my mouse and I can blow this up a little bit. And I'm going to tell it, okay, so adjust and preview. See, that's not too bad. It's not too bad. They look a little porcelain, but trust me, it looks a lot better than what they looked like before. Again, this is HD, so there's only so much definition here. So when I hit my left mouse button, I can see the difference. See the difference? That's what it was. And I let go, and this is what it is now. So now this right here, the temporal filter radius. Basically, what it's doing is taking samples from 2 frames before and 2 frames after. Me, for whatever reason, I like to just go all the way to 5. Take as many samples as you can. And then this looks pretty decent. But if you wanted to actually filter out more noise, then you can actually go up here. And you can adjust this. Or just this noise level here, you can adjust that. Me, I'm pretty good with where I'm at. I don't want it to look too bad. I'm just trying to improve what was already there. So now, as you can see, it looks a little bit better. I'm going to go ahead and turn it off because my computer's not strong enough to play while that is applied. So this clip, from where we were, I think we're doing pretty decent. So I'm going to move on to our next clip here. It seems the audio is different from one clip to another for whatever reason. So let me just mute the audio and let's just go ahead and take a look here. Now this clip, I think I've already trimmed it down. So let me show you what it was prior to. And the reason why I trimmed it is because of all this. It all takes away from the bride, all these people in the way, right? So let's just trim here. And then for whatever reason, the cameraman seems to sway, and it, for whatever reason, and I'd imagine he's pushing it, and as he's pushing it, he's having trouble keeping the camera straight. So I trimmed that part out. And he's zooming in for a shot here. Now keep in mind, this particular camera, this footage is coming from the Sony AX2000. Now the AX2000 has a very small sensor, so it's definitely not gonna do well in low light. And we're seeing the evidence of that. Okay, so we need to do something about, I mean, as far as cropping wise, I mean, it's gonna be pretty decent. I mean, I don't see where we need to crop anybody out too much. So basically I'm gonna hit V to go back to my move tool. And so we basically need to deal with the color here and the exposure like we dealt with this one. So what I'm gonna do here is look at this and let's try to just copy what we did with the last one onto this one and see what happens. It's not too bad. It's not too bad. I think that we may need to bring exposure down just a touch, maybe a little too bright, maybe. What you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. I want them to look pretty decent. Yeah, okay, so that looks a little bit better, like it came from the same camera. The Sony EA50 camera, and this was the Sony AX2000 camera. All right, let's look at our last clip here. Now it is the establishing shot. It's giving you an establishing shot of the whole ceremony. How many people there? You get it, get the picture of what's actually happening as a whole in this particular clip. The candles are awesome. So what I would like to do actually is I would kind of like to get a little closer to this establishing shot as opposed to having it as bright as we've had it. So because of the mood and the ambiance of the candles, it really kind of sets this off a little bit. And so in doing so, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with this particular clip, and I'm going to bring my shadows down. So let me get my scopes up so I can see. I'm going to bring my shadows down. Well, no, that's not the right move. Let me go here and bring shadows down here. Just a bit. Let's see. It's a lot better, huh? That's better. So now let's look at this clip. Let's look at them as a whole and see what we got. See how distracting the exposure or the color will be. It's not too bad. It's not too bad. I think we can live with that. So now what we're going to do is we're going to apply the neat video on this one. But since I already have it here on this clip, I'm just going to copy it. And I got to mute it right now, so if I unmute that, let's see what it looks like when it kicks in. Wait for it, wait for it, wait for it. There it goes. All right, so that's not too bad. I mean, I can live with that. Control N. Let's go ahead and render this out. Red color correction, disaster. So all I have to do now is hit export. And because I'm using the Neat video, just a disclaimer, it's going to take a lot longer processing the Neat video, because basically the reason why it takes so long is because that noise reduction that you saw when we actually put it on the footage, what it does is it goes frame by frame and takes out the noise frame by frame. So you have to understand, if you're at 24 frames per second, then that means it's got to go through 24 pictures every second and take out the noise and adjust it based on our settings. And so that's why it takes so long to make that happen. So I'll go ahead and I'll just speed this up so we can get to the conclusion. I hope you guys liked this video. I hope you got something out of it. I hope that some of these tips might be able to add to your workflow. And I just wanted to show you guys how you can take some drastically disastrous looking wedding clips and try to get them a little bit more presentable by using Neat video and a few color correction tips. As always, I'm Aaron Jones. I'm your big brother, and I got your back. Make sure you hit subscribe. Make sure you hit the bell, because I don't want you to miss anything that may end up helping you. So for you veterans who've been here for a while, comment down below how you would have approached that footage. And for you guys who are just kind of beginning and maybe some of this stuff might have helped you, comment down below, because I'm interested to find out what is helping and what is not, and so that I can adjust my flow. So anyway, you guys make sure you go out and you film something and kill it.